Part 24. After being expelled from the palace, she returned with her cub and amazed the whole city. Author, Hangu. Chapter 238. The maid walked to the window and looked out. A thick fog slowly drifted by, and no other pleasure boats approached. The humid air rushed towards her, and she suddenly felt a slight itch on her neck. The maid stretched out her hand and scratched her neck, and then her face began to itch. "Madam, there is no boat approaching. Do you want me to close the window? The fog is humid and it is easy to get eczema," the maid suggested without doubt. Song Yunzi looked across with a vigilant look. "Did you carry a sachet with you?" When she came out of the princess's mansion, she was wearing a maid's clothes, and she didn't use incense. Even the candles in the pleasure boat were extinguished. Where did the fragrance come from? The man opposite said coldly, "Sachet is a thing that women carry." "Madam, are you saying that our brothers are effeminate?" "Madam, let's talk about when the remaining silver will be cashed if something unexpected happens next." The man touched his face as he spoke. It seemed like a bug was crawling on his face. He touched it and found nothing in his hand. "Why are you in such a hurry?" "The hostages are in my hands. As long as you get us out of the capital and send us to the border of Liang State, I will immediately pay the remaining silver," Song Yunzi said confidently. The man said, "The emperor is not a pushover. If he doesn't believe that you have left the city and doesn't open the city gate tomorrow, our plan will be in vain." A trace of calculation flashed across the man's eyes. They were seeking wealth, not wanting to lose their lives. At this time, Song Yunzi also felt uncomfortable all over, from a slight burning sensation to itching on her face and back of her hands. There were several men opposite them. The master and servant endured the discomfort and put their hands in their sleeves and scratched a few times. Who knew that the more they scratched, the more they wanted to scratch? The unbearable itchy feeling gradually spread to their whole body. A man scratched his neck fiercely and said, "Boss, it's bad. We are itchy. Are we infected?" People who practice martial arts have better eyesight than ordinary people. Before they feel it, they can see the unbearable expressions of Song Yunzi and her servant. The leading man turned around and saw that his brothers were scratching their bodies without caring about their image. Song Yunzi's face suddenly turned pale and she was terrified. She shouted outside, "Come on. Go and check if anyone has sneaked onto the boat." Song Yunzi was risking everything this time. No more than 10 confidants were willing to follow her into danger. The guards outside heard the shouts and rushed in. "Madam, what happened?" "Ah! It itches to death." The people from the King II gate rushed out of the cabin while pulling their clothes. Suddenly, the cabin was in chaos. "Madam, what should I do? I feel uncomfortable all over." The maid scratched hard, her neck was sticky, and the cabin exuded a faint smell of blood. Seeing that she was the only one left in the room, Song Yunzi also began to scratch without caring about her image. She told the guards who came in, "We may all be poisoned, the reason is unknown, go check it out." Song Yunzi staggered behind the screen, unbuttoned her clothes and scratched herself. In the cabin upstairs, Changle was so nervous that his palms were wet. Sui Sui lay on the floor listening to the movement downstairs, until the rapid dong 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 sounded, and he climbed up. "Aunt, it's done, throw the rope quickly. Close the window, they should be coming up soon." Changle's hand loosened, and the sound of the lake water gently hitting the pleasure boat covered the sound of the rope falling into the water. Changle quickly closed the window, leaving only a crack on the other side. "Aunt, you go squat in the corner quickly, put your hands behind your back, don't let anyone see any clues." Sui Sui thought about every detail like a little adult. Sui Sui put all the things he used to stand on his feet back in place, then walked to the door and listened to the movement outside. No one in front. No one behind. Go upstairs and see if someone has great martial arts skills and has already boarded the boat. Then the sound of footsteps coming upstairs was heard. Sui Sui quickly turned around and sat beside Chang Li, with his hands behind his back. "And, close your eyes and pretend to sleep." As soon as Sui Sui finished speaking, the door creaked open from the outside, and the visitor entered the cabin with the night wind, and the two of them trembled slightly. Chang Li and Sui Sui closed their eyes, but their ears were erect, listening attentively to the movement in the cabin. With the help of a ray of moonlight at the door, the visitor saw the two children nestled in the corner, as if they were sleeping soundly, and there was nothing unusual about the window. The visitor glanced coldly and turned away. Hearing the sound of the door closing, Sui Sui and Chang Li opened their eyes at the same time. "Gone. The ground is cold, and they are probably too itchy to care about us. Let's sit on the bed," Chang Li said, getting up and pulling Sui Sui to the bed. "And, the man who just entered the room didn't tickle me, and I don't know how many people have been poisoned," Sui Sui muttered softly and got on the bed, letting his aunt pull over the thin blanket and hug him in her arms. Changle said worriedly, "Don't think about it, the powder in your hand is gone, and we don't know Kung Fu, so we can't fight them. You go to sleep, maybe when you wake up, someone will come to save us." Changle had just observed the situation outside. The fog on the lake was one after another, and it was impossible for people on the shore to find that there was a pleasure boat hidden in the middle of the lake. She thought that tomorrow the fog on the lake would dissipate, and the pleasure boat would be nowhere to hide. With the intelligence of her second brother and sister Zhang, they would definitely find her and Sui Sui. Sui Sui was not as optimistic as Changle. He was afraid that the criminals would throw them into the lake in desperation. He thought in his heart but didn't dare to say it out loud, for fear of scaring his aunt. He closed his eyes and pretended to sleep, his little brain turning quickly. When someone is poisoned and can't bear it anymore, they always try to get ashore to seek medical treatment. Downstairs, as expected, Song Yunzi was almost going crazy. The maid was minding her own business, rubbing her back against the cabin wall, moaning in pain from time to time, and turning a deaf ear to her orders. Song Yunzi shouted, "Here comes someone." The guard came in and stood outside the screen, bowed and asked, "Madam, what are your orders?" "Send the order and ask people to go ashore to buy medicine. This poison makes people itchy all over. I really can't stand it." Song Yunzi's words almost popped out from between her teeth. Outside, the guard saw the man from the Xingyi sect looking so embarrassed that he took off his shirt and started scratching. The guard's scalp was numb when he heard the rustling sounds behind the screen. Fortunately, they were all standing outside just now. If they all entered the cabin, they would be the ones suffering now. "Ma'am, if you bear with me, the person sent out to deliver the message should be back soon. There are no extra boats now, and it is not close to the shore. It is impossible for them to swim there to buy medicine." Song Yunzi endured the discomfort and gritted her teeth and said word by word, "When the ship comes back, leave quickly and come back quickly. Don't let anyone find the trace." Before Song Yunzi finished speaking, she heard the sound of swords clashing outside. "No," the guard drew his sword and rushed out. Song Yunzi was startled, grabbed her clothes and stumbled out. "Madam, wait a minute, slave." The slave girl was so angry that she followed him in disheveled clothes. After leaving the cabin, Song Yunzi was dumbfounded by the scene in front of her. After being expelled from the palace, she returned with her cub and amazed the whole city. Author, Hanggu. Chapter 239. She saw the people from the Xingyi sect facing each other with swords against her henchmen, and the two sides were fighting back and forth. "Stop, stop quickly, are you afraid that we won't be able to expose our position?" The cool breeze blew outside, and Song Yunzi suddenly felt that the itching symptoms on her body seemed to have eased a little. "Madam, this is the sect leader. He doesn't follow the moral principles of the world. He wants to abandon his disciples and leave. I can't let them leave." A guard attacked Song Yunzi with two fierce moves, then feinted with his sword and jumped in front of Song Yunzi to report. It's not that we don't follow the moral principles of the world. The brothers who got on the boat next to me are itchy and have scratched their skin. There is no anti-itch medicine on the boat. As the sect leader, I naturally have to take the brothers ashore to seek medical treatment. The man's attitude was firm and there was no room for negotiation. Song Yunzi glanced at the people in the Tsingyi section under the bright moonlight. The blood stains on their faces were clearly visible. Everyone was disheveled, and their hands were stuck into their clothes and scratching constantly. The maid endured the discomfort and said to Song Yunzi, "Madam, no, if we let them go ashore, things will be difficult to handle later." Song Yunzi didn't know that her carefully laid plan was about to succeed, as long as she left the capital with the hostages. No matter whether Xiao Jingzhao can hand over the two children or not, she will not hand over the hostages easily. If she does not get half of the country back, she will not have the face to meet the ancestors of the Song family after she dies. The man looked at Song Yunzi with cold eyes. "I'll tell you the truth, the brothers on the shore have arranged everything, and we can take you out of the city just waiting for the city gate to open. You're all gone, how can I believe that your promise is still valid?" Song Yunzi was anxious, and the unbearable itching feeling came over her body again. The man subconsciously scratched his waist with his left hand and said, "What are you worried about, madam? I still hope to send you to your destination and receive the remaining banknotes." Song Yunzi didn't dare to believe the Jianghu people's words. She already knew that the person in front of her was obviously a branch leader but pretended to be the sect leader. Her plan was to kill the 9 tribes. She couldn't find anyone to cooperate, so she didn't expose the other party's lies. "No, we were poisoned inexplicably. Maybe there is a big net waiting for us. Now that we are on the same boat, we should advance and retreat together." Song Yunzi's eyes were aggressive. The man in charge of the Tsingyi sect did not take a princess from the previous dynasty seriously. He said unceremoniously, "Madam, please don't forget our agreement. I am leading my brothers to seek wealth, not to risk my life." The man raised his hand and pointed his sword at the guards surrounding them. "If you put down your sword and let us leave safely, I don't care about it. If the city gate opens tomorrow, I will send someone to pick you up at the agreed time. Leave, otherwise." Song Yunzi doesn't know Kung Fu, but if the two sides really continue to fight, the sound of swords clashing in the dead of night will definitely attract Xiao Jingzhao's men. "Don't worry. When the messenger comes back, I'll send my guards to the shore to buy medicine. Please bear with me." Song Yunzi's tone was a little softer. Seeing that the man was silent, Song Yunzi said again, "You are not familiar with the capital. If you rush to find a medical clinic, you will be throwing yourself into a trap." After hearing this, the man motioned to his brothers to put away their swords. The woman in front of him was right. From the moment they took this business, they were already like grasshoppers on a rope. If caught by the government, they will not be able to defend themselves. After hesitating for a moment, the man turned around and said to the people at King Ai Gate, "Let's give her another half hour. If the person who sent the letter doesn't come back, we'll leave again." "Boss, I can't do it anymore. This is worse than killing me." Plop. A man said as he jumped into the lake. The climate in Beijing is relatively cool, and the lake water is not bone-chilling in the season. The slightly cool lake water is just enough to temporarily suppress the burning sensation on your skin. Wow! It's so comfortable. "Boss, get in the water quickly. The water in the lake can detoxify you." The man shouted, and then a pop sound was heard. In the blink of an eye, everyone from the Tsingyi sect jumped into the lake like dumplings. "Madam, let's..." The maid hesitated to speak. As long as her body is not itchy, she is willing to go into the water. When she thinks that neither the madam nor she can swim, the maid does not know what to do. "Have someone bring 2 buckets of water into the cabin." Song Yunzi said a word and turned back to the cabin. Once inside the cabin, she started scratching again. Poisoning appeared out of thin air, leaving Song Yunzi puzzled. The guard carried 2 buckets of water in, and Song Yunzi ordered, "Keep an eye on the people at the Tsingyi gate. I suspect there is a mole among them. Don't let them escape secretly." "There is no need to worry, madam. Everyone is watching from the bow of the ship. If they dare to run away, we will kill them without mercy." The guard took the order and left, and the maid couldn't wait to close the cabin door. He quickly took off his clothes, held water in both hands and poured it on his body. "Song Yunzi, damn girl, you." The maid suddenly realized that she felt uncomfortable that she had neglected to serve her master. "Madam, please forgive me, but it is the slave who deserves to die." The maid quickly stood up, found a bath towel and handed it over. Song Yunzi didn't dare to take off her clothes, leaving only a belly band and underpants. "I wiped my body with a damp bath towel and the itching was slightly relieved." After a while, the guard reported through the door, "Madam, the messenger is back. I will send someone to buy medicine right now." "Wait a minute, the mansion must be surrounded at this time, and there may be people in the medical center watching. Let's go to Dr. Zhang's house. Dr. Zhang is an old man in the palace and a confidant of the Queen Mother. The place where he lives is not conspicuous and does not easily attract attention." When Sui Sui heard the sound of paddles moving water, he quickly sat up. When the sound of paddling faded away, he lowered his voice and said, "Little ant, cheer up, we can go home in a while." Changle had an idea, got off the bed, and tiptoed to the door. She stretched out her hand and pulled down the door latch. Sui Sui thought that the group of people below had never suspected them at all. Those people had too much time to take care of themselves, and they probably wouldn't come up now. When he saw his little ant pulling down the door latch, he didn't stop her. Other end. Zhang Shuyu ran all the way in the deserted alley, and was about to run out of the alley. The next street was Lianwu Lake. She slowed down her pace, walked into the darkness and ducked into the space. After 5 steps, he fell down and his cartilage fell apart. She quickly placed the 2 medicines at a convenient location. Song Yunzi had guards around her. These 2 medicines were the most suitable for dealing with Lianjiazi. People who had placed lanterns by the lake were walking back one after another, and street vendors were preparing to close up and go back to reunite with their families. The painted boats on Lianwu Lake also began to move towards the shore. No, there is no guarantee of fighting alone. If the gangster is found, Zhang Shuyu and Sui Sui can hide in the space. She is not afraid that the space will be exposed to Chang Li, but she is worried that not everyone can bring it into the space. She looked around and saw a group of government officials walking towards her in the distance. She walked up hurriedly, put away her anxious expression and shouted to the officials, "Are these officials looking for someone?" The officer closest to her glanced at her and said, "Girl, it's not safe to go out at night. It's better to go back early and enjoy the moon." Seeing that the official didn't take her words seriously, she had to get straight to the point and said, "I know you are looking for the princess. I know where the princess is hidden." Several officials asked in unison, "Where?" "That." Zhang Shuyu raised her hand and pointed toward the lake. Before she could take her hand back, a small boat appeared in her sight. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After being expelled from the palace, she returned with her cub and amazed the whole city. Author, Hanggu. Chapter 240. Where? It's him. If you don't believe me, arrest him and interrogate him. The officer was stunned as he looked at the misty lake and the man rowing the boat. Zhang Shuyu saw the officer looking at the boat with doubt as it approached the shore. She pointed to the other side of the lake, "Look, the pleasure boats and tourists are there, why is he here alone?" An officer scratched the back of his head. It's not right. Think about it, if the criminals rented a pleasure boat and swam to the center of the lake, you wouldn't be able to find him even if you turned the capital upside down, Zhang Xiyu persuaded. A word awakened the dreamer, and an officer with a clever face waved at several people. Quick! Catch him, don't let him run away. The man who had just landed was dressed as an ordinary citizen. When he saw the officer running towards him, he lifted his robe without thinking, paused on the spot, and rose up. After a few rises and falls, he disappeared into the vast night. What did the officers not understand when they saw this scene? If they were not guilty, why would they run away when they saw them? The leader shouted, "Go and call someone." The officers did not have amazing light skills, so they naturally could not catch up. The best plan now was to quickly pass the news back to the government office. Zhang Xiyu saw the officers running back, and she said to the remaining officers, "The boat can accommodate 3 people. Who of you will follow me?" Before the officers answered, Zhang Xiyu could not wait to walk towards the boat. "Miss, please stay. The criminals tonight are extraordinary," the officer chased after her with a brisk step. "Don't talk nonsense. The princess and I have a deep friendship. Let's row the boat together." Zhang Xiyu was anxious and had no time to talk to them. She stepped onto the boat, which swayed slightly, and she sat down quickly. Several officers on the shore looked at each other, and the leader said to another officer, "Go find a bigger boat quickly. Reinforcements will be here soon." Then the leading officer jumped onto the boat with another person. The officer had no experience in rowing, and the boat started spinning in place after leaving the shore. "Paddle with your left hand, and pay attention to the balance of your right hand." Zhang Xiyu had no experience in rowing either. She had seen pigs run even though she had never eaten pork. With her constant reminders, the boat finally steered in the right direction. Evenly apply force on both sides. Under Zhang Shiyu's guidance, the boat slowly rowed towards the center of the lake. While rowing, the officer said worriedly, "There are all clouds of fog in front of us. The lake is so big. It may be difficult for us to find the hiding place of the criminals on our own. Since they can get out, we can find them in. Keep your hands steady and go straight ahead." The officer also felt that Zhang Shiyu's analysis was reasonable. He suddenly had an illusion that this beautiful woman was calm and composed, and the aura around her was like that of the Jingzhao Yin. The boat passed through the fog, and another officer stared at the front with wide eyes, holding the handle of the knife tightly in his big hand, as if thousands of troops would appear in front of him. The humidity on the lake was too high, and after a while Zhang Shiyu's eyelashes were covered with dewdrops. She raised her sleeves and wiped them, and continued to stare at the front intently. Suddenly, a suspicious shadow appeared in the distance. Zhang Xiyu hurriedly said, "Try to be gentle and don't make any noise. It seems to be a pleasure boat in front." The official quickly took the oar out of the water and let the boat move slowly forward. Just as the boat was about to stop, a pleasure boat jumped into sight. "Hey! Why is it so dark? I was afraid of being discovered, so of course I didn't dare to turn on the lights." Just as the boat was about to approach the pleasure boat, Zhang Xiyu saw a swaying figure in front of the pleasure boat. Estimating that the other party had at least more than 20 people, she suddenly realized that this was a futile move. She could play the game of disappearing out of thin air to save her life, but the 2 officials might not be able to do so. She was eager to save her son, but she couldn't sacrifice 2 innocent lives. At this time, Song Yunzi must have been desperate to kill people to silence them, and there were many experts among the guards around her. Zhang Xiyu waited for a moment. Even if the poison in her hand was successfully thrown onto the pleasure boat, before the drug took effect, there would be enough time for the other party to kill 2 people. Then she made a prompt decision and said in a low voice, "Stop, turn around quickly." A cloud of fog drifted by, and the official also saw the figure on the pleasure boat. He quickly rowed the oars backwards, and as soon as the boat disappeared into the fog, he heard a low shout from the pleasure boat, "Who? He didn't come back so soon, it must be the fish in the lake jumping," another male voice sounded. The official saw that the sound of the oars entering the water startled the people on the pleasure boat, so he quickly slowed down his movements and slowly retreated. The boat turned around, and the official rowed more smoothly than when he came. As soon as the boat docked, he saw figures passing by one after another in the distance. The official was overjoyed. The emperor sent the Jinyue here. Zhang Shiyu saw that those people were all as skilled as Gao Mu, and recognized them at a glance. They were not only Jinyue, but also Xiao Jingzhao's secret guards. Looking at the situation, there were quite a few people. The two officials went ashore, and Zhang Shiyu quickly picked up the oars and rowed hard, and the boat went to the center of the lake like an arrow. "Hey! Girl, it's dangerous, come back quickly." When the two officials came to their senses, the boat had been swallowed by the thick fog. "Quick, go to the front to find Lord Lu, we found the hiding place of the criminals." How could such a rare opportunity to make meritorious deeds be missed? The two officials didn't care about Zhang Shiyu, who had gone far away, and hurried to the place where the Jinyue gathered. "Disperse, we have to perform official duties here." The two officials came to the dock where the pleasure boat was docked, and saw their colleagues evacuating people from the pleasure boat. "Where is Lord Lu? We have made a major discovery." Hearing the shout, Xiao Jingzhao, who had already boarded the pleasure boat, turned around and said, "Bring the person here." Xiang Song jumped and landed beside the two officials. Xiang Song brought the person to the pleasure boat, and the two officials knelt down together, reporting impatiently, "Your Majesty, I just went to explore the road. There is a pleasure boat in the center of the lake. It is dark and heavily guarded. The princess must be imprisoned on it." Xiao Jingzhao's tightly furrowed brow suddenly relaxed. "You have made great contributions in exploring the road, and you will be rewarded heavily afterwards." Thinking of the extraordinary woman who took the risk alone, the leading official said, "Your Majesty, a woman just walked with us." "Where is the person?" "She didn't go ashore, but went to the center of the lake." Xiao Jingzhao waved his hand, "Hurry, let's go first." Originally, they planned to requisition all the boats to surround the center of the lake. When Xiao Jingzhao heard that Zhang Shiyu went to rescue people alone, he was anxious. "I'll go tell Lord Lu." The two officers ran off the boat, and Xiang Song quickly ordered the pleasure boat to start. The rowers were all replaced by Jinyue, and the pleasure boat moved much faster than usual. Xiao Jingzhao stood at the bow, his eyes swept back and forth across the lake, and his hands were twisted vigorously in his sleeves. He silently prayed in his heart, "Sui Sui's mother, please don't get hurt, I owe you too much, God must give me a chance to slowly make it up to her." Instantly, all the pleasure boats and small boats at the dock surrounded the center of the lake. In the center of the lake, the first to discover that the situation was not good were the people of Kingi Imen. "Boss, it's bad, we're exposed. Retreat. Save your life." Plop, plop. When Song Yunzi's guards came to their senses, all the people of Kingi Imen dived into the water. After being expelled from the palace, she returned with her cub and amazed the whole city. Author, Hanggu. Chapter 241. In the cabin, the itching on Song Yunzi and her servant was relieved, and the scratched wounds began to hurt again. Hearing the shouts outside, Song Yunzi didn't care about the pain, and hurriedly pulled her dress and said to the maid, "Hurry up and go out to see if the Kingi Imen is making trouble again." The maid was more seriously poisoned than Song Yunzi, and she felt that she couldn't hold on without the antidote. She grabbed the dress and put it on her body in a hurry. Just as the master and servant tied their belts, there was a hurried knock at the door from the guards. "Madam, it's bad, our position has been exposed." Song Yunzi's head was buzzing instantly. There was no retreat in her perfect plan. She panicked and stumbled to the door. "Quick, Retreat quickly, let the King Ai men resist in front. Tens of thousands of taels of silver notes have been spent, and it's time for them to contribute. The guard reported, the people from the King Ai sect have already run away. The door suddenly opened, and Song Yunzi was furious. A bunch of rubbish, they can't even keep a group of people under control. I thought they went into the water to relieve the effect of the medicine, but who would have thought they would escape as soon as they got into the water? Song Yunzi didn't listen to the guard's explanation. She rushed out of the cabin and saw a bright light approaching quickly in the distance. Madam, what should we do? The people are coming in a semi-encirclement. The emperor has mobilized tens of thousands of people. We can't escape even if we have wings. The maid was trembling with fear at the scene in front of her. The lights on the boats that were getting closer and closer were bright, almost illuminating half of the lake, and the guards were also shocked by the scene. No one noticed that a small boat was approaching quietly from the side behind them. On the boat, Zhang Xiu saw that everyone on the pleasure boat was looking ahead. She moved her mind, and a bag of cartilage powder appeared in her hand. Without time to measure the wind direction, she held her breath, raised her arm, and threw the medicine bag towards the pleasure boat. Madam, be careful. A guard reacted quickly and swung his sword to chop at the medicine bag. The medicine bag was split by the sharp sword, and the cartilage powder scattered in the air like flour. A faint strange fragrance filled the air. It's poisonous. The guard shouted and quickly raised his sleeves to cover his mouth and nose and held his breath. The maid supported Song Yunzi and hurriedly hid in the cabin. The rest of the guards hid towards the upwind vent. What they didn't know was that after inhaling the cartilage powder, the internal force would be dispersed. If you don't use your internal force, you won't notice it. The deeper the internal force, the better the effect. If it is inhaled by ordinary people, the impact will not be great. In the chaos, Zhang Xiu took the opportunity to dodge into the space. She estimated the time in her mind and listened attentively to the movement outside. What she was most worried about was that the pleasure boat would overturn the boat when it moved. If that happened, she would be in the water when she left the space again. She could do butterfly stroke and breaststroke, but the lake was so big that it was difficult for her to swim to the shore in one breath. If she wanted to swim back, she would probably have to go back to the space to rest several times. No one is seen, get out of the boat quickly. A woman's urging voice came to her ears in a moment. Then a light bang sound was heard. Zhang Shuyu's heart stomped. It was really that good things didn't work, but bad things came to her. What you feared will come true. The boat was hit. Zhang Shuyu dodged out of the space without hesitation, and stumbled and almost fell into the lake. The boat was hit and tilted, and she instinctively grabbed the edge of the pleasure boat. The pleasure boat was moving, and Zhang Shuyu looked down and saw that the lake water was pouring into the tilted boat. Her shoes were soaked, so Zhang Shuyu simply pushed hard and jumped onto the pleasure boat. However, she had no kung fu skills, so this jump only made her hands more firmly pulled. She pushed hard on the edge of the pleasure boat with her feet, trying to climb onto it. The hull was smooth behind her, and her wet embroidered shoes were slippery and there was no foothold. Her hands holding the edge began to lose strength. At this time, a rope fell from the top of her head, with a knot and a ring at the end. Mother, put it on your waist quickly. The voice was not loud in the night wind, but Zhang Shuyu heard it very clearly. It was Sui Sui. Zhang Shuyu looked up and saw two little heads sticking out of the high window. It turned out that Changle and Sui Sui saw the lights in the distance, and a long team across the lake, like a fire dragon surrounding here. The two of them lay at the door excitedly, listening to the noise outside. When they heard someone say that there was poison, Sui Sui knew that it was his mother who came. Sui Sui looked out a moment ago and saw that there was no one on the boat. He was so anxious that tears flowed. He didn't know whether his mother got on the pleasure boat or fell into the lake. Thinking of what his mother said, crying can't solve the problem. Don't panic when encountering things, be calm, and think of countermeasures. He quickly picked up the rope and made a life rope with Changle. Considering that he and his aunt were not strong enough, he tied one end of the rope to the foot of the bed. When he looked out again, he saw his mother's familiar figure. In order not to alarm the guards in front, Sui Sui didn't dare to shout. The pleasure boat was moving, and Zhang Xiu almost slipped down. She gritted her teeth and clung to it tightly. Looking at the rope swaying in front of her, she didn't dare to pull it. Once she let go of one hand, her whole body would inevitably fall into the lake. Sushui saw it all and was anxious, and, Mother has no strength left, I'll lead the bad guys away, you go save Mother. Wait, watch me, if we go down, we'll be caught by the bad guys, and it will also expose your mother's presence. Changle grabbed the rope and swung it over Zhang Shiyu's head. She wanted to find the right moment to lower it down. Zhang Shiyu also cooperated very well, stretching her neck and wrapping the rope around her head several times without success. As long as her neck entered the loop of the life-saving knot, she would use the back of her neck to exert force, then release one hand and put it under her armpit. Just when she was exhausted, there was an exclamation from in front of the boat. Zhang Shiyu only felt her waist tighten, and there was the sound of whistling wind in her ears, as well as the ecstatic exclamations of every year. Father! The body was led to the top of the boat. Before he could stand still, the familiar cold bamboo fragrance lingered on the tip of his nose. Yu Niang, Xiao Jingzhao's voice was a little hoarse. That sound of Yu Niang brought with it worry, fear, and a bit of joy as if she had found a treasure. Zhang Shiyu's arms had lost strength, and her whole body was limp in Xiao Jingzhao's broad arms. I'm so nervous that my legs don't work. Hurry, Sushui and Changle are inside. Don't worry, they'll be fine. Their bodies were so close to each other that Zhang Shiyu could feel his chest vibrating when he spoke. Before she finished speaking, Zhang Shiyu felt her big hands tighten around her waist and her body rose into the air again. She quickly closed her eyes and instinctively put her hands around Xiao Jingzhao's neck. On the boat, Song Yunzi watched helplessly as Jin Yiwei flew over like a rock before the opponent's ship got closer. In the night sky, the bright yellow shadow flashed past. The guards looked at the man falling from the sky, raised their swords and prepared to fight to the death. As soon as he raised the sword, he realized that his inner strength was gone and the sword in his hand fell with a clang. Madam, please go and pull Princess Changle over to protect yourself. As soon as the maid turned around, someone slapped her on the back of her head, and she fell down softly. I am the eldest princess, please stop being rude. Seeing that all the guards were captured alive, Song Yunzi stepped back. After being expelled from the palace, she returned with her cub and amazed the whole city. Author, Hanggu. Chapter 242. A Jinyiwei sneered, Bah! You are worthy of being called the eldest princess. When the two countries are fighting, you are secretly communicating with the enemy country. Is this what a princess should do? Song Yunzi stared in disbelief. How did the news of such a top-secret matter leak out? You are slandering me. You lowly people, you are not worthy of talking to this princess, get out of here, let the surname Xiao come to talk. Looking at the Jinyiwei step by step, Song Yunzi continued to retreat. Ha ha! You really think you are still a princess, and you will be a prisoner soon. You are overestimating yourself. Are you worthy of meeting the emperor? A Jinyiwei said contemptuously. Song Yunzi glanced at the cabin on the second floor, and the lights inside were already on. With no cards in her hand, Song Yunzi still wanted to try to quibble. She racked her brains, but she couldn't find a way to get rid of the charge of treason and kidnapping the heir. The situation was over, and she was unwilling to surrender and become a prisoner. When her hand touched the railing of the pleasure boat, she looked at the Jinyiwei approaching. She gritted her teeth and leaned back. If you want to die, it's not that easy. Just as the Jinyi Wei was about to reach out to grab her, Xiang Song, who was standing on a high place, shouted, "Don't stop her, let her go." A plop sounded, but there was no big splash. At this time, Xiang Yang also arrived. Seeing the lake calm down, Xiang Yang pulled Xiang Song aside. "Boss, how can you let her jump into the lake to commit suicide? Lose his who is still waiting to try her." Xiang Song lowered his voice and said, "You know nothing, how to try her, let her tell the master and Miss Zhang about the matter of Sui Sui in the court. When she is about to die, she will definitely make random accusations to damage the girl's reputation." Xiang Song is more perceptive than Xiang Yang. He sees the master's thoughts. For the safety of the young master, as long as the girl has not entered the palace, the young master's identity should not be publicized. Xiang Yang scratched the back of his head. "I didn't expect this." Xiang Song glared at Xiang Yang. "The master's status is different now, we can do the dirty work, and use your brain more in everything." "I understand, we are the knife in the master's hand, as long as we are good to the master, we don't mind if the knife is stained with blood." Xiang Song patted Xiang Yang on the shoulder. "The boy is teachable and has made progress. If the master blames me for this, I will take full responsibility. Don't look down on me, brother, brothers should share happiness and difficulties. If the master really blames me, I will go to the imperial household temple to feed horses," Xiang Yang said and straightened his chest. Xiang Song was very moved and nodded. "Well, you feed the horses, I apologize. Then Sui Sui." Xiang Yang looked at the cabin. "It's all right, I have arranged people to guard it, I'll leave it to you here, I'll report the situation here to the master." After a while, a pleasure boat approached, and Luz His who asked people to take all the criminals away. In the cabin, Sui Sui yawned and asked, "Aunt, why hasn't mother come in yet?" "Shh. Don't shout, your mother's dress is soaked, the emperor brother must have taken her away first, we have someone to escort her back, don't think too much, go to sleep." "Well, with daddy here, I'm not worried." Changle pulled up the thin quilt and held Sui Sui in her arms. After Sui Sui's tense mood relaxed, her eyelids soon became heavy. In the cabin of another pleasure boat, Xiao Jingzhao searched around but couldn't find a woman's dress. Zhang Shuyu looked at the soaked embroidered shoes and skirt. "Your Majesty, don't look for it. This is a sightseeing boat. There is no way there are spare dresses in it. Your Majesty can leave first when the boat docks." "What are you afraid of?" Xiao Jingzhao narrowed his eyes. Zhang Shuyu was slightly stunned. What else can she be afraid of? She is already famous enough in the capital, and she doesn't want to be on the headlines in the capital tomorrow. Xiao Jingzhao seemed to have seen through her thoughts and said with a smile, "There are no strangers on this pleasure boat. Sushui is taken care of by someone. I will send you back later." Zhang Shuyu was about to refuse when she heard Xiang Song coming to see her. Xiao Jingzhao walked to the screen and asked, "How are Changle and Sushui? Has the criminal been handed over to Luz His Hu?" "The princess and the young master have traces of being strangled by ropes on their wrists and ankles, and some bruises, but no other injuries." Xiang Song originally wanted to say that the princess and the young master were not frightened, but he carefully recalled the scene of seeing the princess and Sushui. The two were so happy that people who didn't know would think they came to the lake to enjoy the moon. Xiang Song paused and reported again, "Your Majesty, Song Yunzi jumped into the lake out of fear of punishment. It was my negligence. I beg your Majesty to punish her." Xiao Jingzhao pursed his lips and said after a moment of silence, "She jumped into the lake out of fear of punishment. What crime have you committed? Order Luz His Hu to send people to salvage her and not pollute the wax apple lake." Xiang Song bowed, "I obey your command." The footsteps faded away, and Zhang Shuyu stood up and walked to the window. The pleasure boats on the lake were all rowing towards the shore. Feeling the person behind her approaching, Zhang Shuyu turned around and their eyes met. She committed suicide. Will this affect you? Xiao Jingzhao said gently, no, she has all the evidence of having an affair with the third prince of Liang. Even if she dies, she will not escape the judgment of the government. Yu Niang, can I call you that? Xiao Jingzhao seemed to have a hint of grievance in his tone. Zhang Shuyu raised her eyes, the bright moonlight reflected his handsome face, the night wind blew, a strand of black hair fluttered, handsome and extraordinary. The phoenix eyes stared at her ardently, and Zhang Shuyu's heartbeat accelerated inexplicably. She quickly looked away. Yes, of course, everyone calls me that. Seeing her eyes evading, Xiao Jingzhao curled his lips and smiled lightly. He followed Zhang Shuyu's line of sight and saw the vast night sky twinkling with stars. He asked with a smile, Yu Niang, why do you think Chang Yi stood alone under the laurel tree and looked at the world? Zhang Shuyu. The emperor didn't go to the lake tonight, why did his brain get flooded? Ahem. This, maybe she is greedy for the beauty of the world. Zhang Shuyu coughed dryly and made up a lie. No, I thought she was waiting for someone to reunite, and that person might be immortal. Zhang Shuyu was stunned for a moment and nodded randomly, maybe. But secretly complained in his heart, Your Majesty, you are so good at talking nonsense, it's a waste of talent not to write a storybook. Zhu Beiji went to Guanggan Palace to play with Chang Yi, did you blow the pig up to the sky? After a moment, Xiao Jingzhao said again, Yu Niang, the night is so beautiful tonight. Next year's Mid-Autumn Festival, let's take Sui Sui to the lake to enjoy the moon, okay? The emperor is busy with all kinds of affairs, how can he have so much free time? The moon is full once a month, and there is nothing to see, Zhang Shuyu said seriously. Looking at the beautiful woman in front of him but not understanding the romance, Xiao Jingzhao's eyebrows jumped slightly. Just when he was about to persuade her, he heard the guards outside report, Your Majesty, the boat has docked. Turn off all the lights and let everyone retreat. With an order, the brightly lit pleasure boat darkened instantly. I'll take you back. Before she finished speaking, a big hand reached her waist. When Zhang Shuyu came to her senses, her feet had been taken off the ground. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After being expelled from the palace, she returned with her cub and amazed the whole city. Author, Hanggu. Chapter 243. Zhang Shuyu only felt the whirring sound of the wind in her ears, and she felt like she was flying in the clouds. She opened her eyes slightly, and the bright lights and the tile houses on the treetops flashed by, creating a different scene. On the shore, Lin Miaoxiao, who came after hearing the news, met Sunan on the shore. Uncle Lin, should my sister and Sui Sui be okay? Seeing that the lights on the pleasure boat were turned off after landing, Sunan was about to rush forward to find someone. At this moment, in the night, the figures on the pleasure boat flew down like birds, densely packed, and disappeared in front of her eyes in an instant. Lin Miaoxiao grabbed Sunan and said, Don't go, let's go back, someone will see you off, girl you. At the other end of the lake, Gao Mu guessed why the lights on the pleasure boats were all turned off when he saw this scene, and he hurriedly rode back to the mansion. Nangang Ziyu and a team of people were exhausted in the princess's mansion. Xiao Jingzhao pointed to 2 people, and then Jing Zhaoyan sent a few more people, less than 10 people in total. He was not familiar with the huge princess mansion, and the maids and servants in the mansion ran away after the emperor left. Nangang Ziyu had a special liking for the warehouse. The outer courtyard warehouse was full of household sundries. After searching for a long time, no one was found, and there was no sign of anyone being detained. Finally, he waved his hand, go to the main courtyard. Oh my! Sir, can you let us take a break? If we search with just a few people, people will die. A yamen runner put one hand on his waist and sat down on the steps. Nangong Ziyu, a non-staff member, dared not scold the Yamen runners. He looked at the two Jinyue and said, "How about we go first?" The two Jinyue said expressionlessly, "Please go in front, young master." As soon as Nangong Ziyu took a step, he heard a Jinyue say to the Yamen runners, "Your physical fitness is worrying and you lack exercise. You should train hard in winter and summer when you work for the government. Lord Lu is still too kind." The Yamen runners were afraid that the Jinyue would go back to the palace to show off in front of the emperor, so they got up from the ground and said, "Sir, wait a minute, I can still hold on." They were paid a meager salary and mostly ran errands on weekdays. There was no need to train hard in winter and summer. The luxury in the main courtyard almost blinded several people. There were traces of being turned over everywhere in the house, and the ground was in a mess, just like a robber. They say that monkeys scatter when the tree falls, and this is really true. Judging from the situation, the servants of the princess's mansion must have searched for their indent years before leaving, and also took away jewelry and silver. After searching the main courtyard, no clues were found. Nangong Ziyu waved his hand and said, "Go to the warehouse." Arriving at the main courtyard warehouse, there were two iron guards on the door. The Yamen runner kicked it several times but it didn't move at all. To prove that he was not a weak chicken, the Yamen runner said, "Wait, I'll find something to break it open." "Don't waste your energy, I'll lend you a fork," Nangong Ziyu said, reaching out to the hair crown on the Yamen runner's head. Seeing the Yamen runner's hair disheveled in an instant, the others held back their laughter. Under the puzzled gaze of several people, Nangong Ziyu skillfully turned the lock core. But in the blink of an eye, there was a click sound, and the lock opened. One of the Jinyue couldn't help but praise, "Young master, you are really amazing. No wonder the emperor entrusted you with an important task." Nangong Ziyu had a hard time saying what he meant by entrusted with an important task. That black-hearted person was obviously jealous of him staying with Yuniang and deliberately sent him away. The Jinyue was full of talents, and it was impossible that there was no one available. "Princess," a Yamen runner shouted into the house before the person holding a lantern behind him entered. There was no sound inside. When the candle in the warehouse was lit, the warehouse was empty. The Yamen runner scratched the back of his head and said, "This is not right. The main warehouse of the princess's mansion should not be empty. Even if there are no mountains of pearls and agates, there should be a few boxes of silver." Nangong Ziyu glanced at the traces on the ground. "This is not empty either. It's just that the warehouse was emptied in advance. Is there anyone?" Just as everyone was about to walk out of the warehouse door, shouts came from outside. The two Jinyue paused and jumped out, disappearing instantly. Several Yamen runners opened their mouths for a long time. One of them, a messy-haired Yamen runner, swallowed his saliva and turned to look at his companions. "Let's go back and practice." Nangong Ziyu glanced at several people and said lightly, "It's useless to practice if the bones are formed and rigid." Several Yamen runners felt a flash before their eyes, and the handsome young man disappeared without a trace. Nangong Ziyu came to the main courtyard gate and heard a man say, "The princess has been found. The emperor has ordered that no suspect should be released. Now the whole city is searching for accomplices." Seeing Nangong Ziyu appear, the two Jinyue clasped their fists to him. "Thank you for your help tonight, young master. See you later." A black shadow flashed under the moonlight, and the two Jinyue disappeared on the spot. The messenger wanted to jump up and catch up, but Nangong Ziyu quickly caught up and grabbed the man's arm, anxiously asking, "Are the princess and the others all okay?" The man raised his eyes and glanced at Nangong Ziyu, and said seriously, "Sir, be careful with your words. Princess Changle is still a child. Don't ask about things that you shouldn't ask." Nangong Ziyu. "Did I say something wrong?" During a moment of shock, Nangong Ziyu let go of the man's arm. When the man in front of him disappeared, Several Yamen runners also chased out. What Nangong Ziyu said to the man was just overheard by the Yamen runners. Several people looked at Nangong Ziyu with ambiguous eyes. One of them bowed and smiled flatteringly, "Young master, when you see the princess, remember to say a few good words for us. Young master is so handsome and will surely achieve his wish. We will get busy first." As they spoke, they retreated, and Nangong Ziyu was confused. He just wanted to know if Sui Sui was safe and sound. The princess was a person who would never mend her ways. What was the use of saying good words in front of her? Watching them run out of the gate, Nangong Ziyu shook his head, jumped over the wall, and disappeared into the vast night after a few jumps. In Zhang Mansion, Xiao Jingzhao took Zhang Shuyu directly over the wall. After landing on the ground, the burning big hand was still on his waist. "Thank you, Your Majesty, for seeing me off." Zhang Shuyu's ears were slightly hot, and she reminded him softly. Xiao Jingzhao slowly retracted his arm, his voice as warm as spring breeze, "Take care of yourself, I promise you, what happened tonight will never happen again." Just when Zhang Shuyu thought Xiao Jingzhao was going to leave, he lowered his head slightly, picked her up by the waist and walked towards the bed. Zhang Shuyu was ashamed and angry. Your shoes are wet, I will call someone in a while, you can undress yourself first." Xiao Jingzhao bent down and put her on the edge of the bed, helping her take off her shoes and socks. The big hand pinching her ankle was warm, and Zhang Shuyu's cheeks flushed when she thought that she had misunderstood Xiao Jingzhao. "I'm sorry, you go back to the palace first, Kaiju will come in soon." "Well, you rest first, Xiangyang should have sent Sushui back, I'll go over to take a look." Hearing the sound of the bead curtain colliding, Zhang Shuyu breathed a sigh of relief, and with a thought, she flashed into the space. After being expelled from the palace, she returned with her cub and amazed the whole city. Author, Hanggu. Chapter 244. After entering the space, Zhang Shuyu soaked her entire body into the hot spring. Thinking that she had misunderstood Xiao Jingzhao just now, she covered her face with her hands and slid down, sinking her head into the water. It's so shameful to use the heart of a villain to judge the belly of a gentleman. He has the appearance of a dragon and a phoenix, and is made of jade and gold. There are countless women who admire him, but she thinks that he wants to be the overlord. No, I have to wait until he leaves to see my son, which is too embarrassing. Xiao Jingzhao left Xingye courtyard and walked straight towards Shumakshan. The maids and servants of Zhang Mansion learned outside that the gangsters had taken people to Lianwu Lake. When they rushed to the lake, they saw the officials walking back in a hurry. After inquiring, they learned that the gangster was brought back to the yamen by Jing Zayin, and the maid turned around and ran back. In the hall, Sujin walked back and forth anxiously. He had never felt that time passed so slowly. He looked at the hourglass and saw that another 2/4 of an hour had passed without anyone coming back to deliver the news. He wanted to go out and take a look, but then he remembered what Uncle Lin said, there must be no one in the house. While he was extremely anxious, the chattering sounds of the maids came from the porter. Sujin picked up his robe and ran outside. "Master Su, there is good news. The officials outside are saying that the gangster has been caught." The person who came in was the maid beside Chang Li. "Is he okay in Sushui?" "Is everything okay, princess?" Jing said, "Thank you Mr. Su for your concern. The princess and Sushui are both fine. The royal guards have sent the princess back to the palace. The servants will also go and clean up before returning." "Did the official tell Sui Sui when he would be back?" "Sushui has gone to bed." Sujin turned around and saw an imposing man in bright yellow robes walking out. "Emperor." The maid and the servant all knelt down and saluted. Sujin just lifted up his robe, and his arm was held by Xiao Jingzhao. "Forgive me, I've made everyone worried. Changle and Sushui are fine." Then he looked at Jing "Pack up and go back to the palace." Just as Xiao Jingzhao left, Gao Mu, Lin Miaoxiao and Sunan also came back. Qiuju and Lan'er walked at the back. Thank God, it was the Bodhisattva who appeared. The princess and the young master are both safe and sound. It's great. Meyer clasped her hands and chanted piously. When Miss is free, let's go to the temple to pay homage and thank the Bodhisattva for his blessing. Qiuju did not deny Lan'er's words. She secretly thought that it was the madam who was protecting the young lady and the young master. Whatever the young lady does will go smoothly, and the young master will be safe and happy. At the mention of Miss, Meyer came back to her senses. Is Miss back? The young master must be frightened. Go and make a bowl of soothing soup. Qiuju didn't even have time to answer Meyer. She dropped her words and ran towards the inner courtyard. The emperor always climbed over the wall several times when he came to the palace, and tonight was certainly no exception. While everyone was sighing, Sunan had already slipped away to Shumakshan. Seeing Sui Sui sleeping soundly, Sunan touched his little hand. Seeing the bruises on her wrists, Sunan was so distressed that she burst into tears. He carefully put Sushui's little hand on his face and rubbed it. A faint medicinal smell lingered on the tip of his nose, and the medicinal smell was also mixed with the refreshing fragrance of cold bamboo. Sui Sui. There were chaotic footsteps outside the door, and it was the elder brother calling Sushui. Sunan put down Sui Sui's little hand, rushed to the door with a quick step and made a silent gesture, shh. Don't shout, Sui Sui is already asleep. I'll go in and take a look. Sujin stepped lightly and even breathed a little softer. Is there any injury? Let me go in and see. Lin Miao walked around Sunan and walked towards the bed. Gao Mu stretched his neck and looked in. Sujin's figure in front of the bed blocked his view. He smiled at Sunan and said, just take a look. Sunan. He knew he couldn't stop it. Looking at Sui Sui sleeping sweetly, Sujin couldn't help but touch his little face, and secretly swore in his heart that he must grow into a towering tree so that he can protect his sister and Sui Sui. Ouch. Damn bad guy, look at how hard our obedient hands are. Lin Miao held Sushui's little hand and turned it over and over to check. His nose was sore. If no one else was present, he would have burst into tears. He looked at Sushui's hands, then from head to toes. Several people gathered around the bed, touching here and pinching there. Sushui slowly opened his eyes and showed a soft smile. Grandpa Lin, Uncle, second uncle, Uncle Gao, I'm fine. Seeing that Suzy had woken up, Sujin reached out and held him in his arms and patted him gently. Are you scared? Where did those bad guys take you? Lin Miao took out the medicine and said, Sui Sui Sui, let's apply some medicine and it will stop the pain. I've already applied the medicine, it doesn't hurt. His moist phoenix eyes were curved, and his sensible little look made several people feel heartbroken. Second uncle, have you seen my mother? Has Dad sent my mother back? Sunan shook his head, I didn't see it. Then he nodded and said, the emperor has just left, and sister should be in the courtyard. Gao Mu also took a close look at Sushui's wrists and ankles and said, it will take at least 7 or 8 days to recover as before. Master Sushui must be hungry. I'll ask the kitchen to make a midnight snack. Sushui shook his head, I'm not hungry, I'm just thirsty. Lin Miaoxiao quickly poured a glass of water over, and with Lin Miaoxiao's hand, Sushui drank more than half of the glass in one go. Sunan, go see my sister. Sujin was muttering in his heart. My sister was sent back by the emperor himself. Did she faint due to excessive anxiety or something? If there was nothing else to hold her back, my sister should have come here by now. Wait, I'll be back soon. Sunan said and ran out quickly. Lin Miaoxiao put the medicine in her hand on the small table at the head of the bed and said to Sujin, you and Sunan are here. I won't go to say hello to you, girl. I have to go back to the palace to see the princess. Don't be nervous, Grandpa Lin, little Aunt is fine. Sui Sui showed a signature smile. Seeing everyone's nervous expressions, he didn't intend to mention the thrill on the boat, so as not to make everyone worried. Sujin nodded, Uncle Lin, don't worry and go back to the palace. If there is anything, I will ask Master Lin to go to the palace to pass on the message. The princess is a girl and must have been frightened. Okay. Lin Miaoxiao turned around and Gao Mu followed. Kyoja rushed into Xingyu courtyard in a hurry. As soon as she entered the courtyard, she started shouting, Miss, Sushui is back. Hearing the shouts getting closer, Zhang Xiu hurriedly grabbed a bath towel and wrapped it around herself and flashed out of the space. Kyoja was thinking about the young lady, so she quickly opened the door curtain and rushed in. Miss, you fell into the water. On the edge of the bed, Zhang Xiu was wearing a bath towel, her little face was as rosy as a lotus out of water, and her wet hair was still dripping with water. Zhang Xiu twisted her hair with the corner of the bath towel. I didn't fall into the water, help me get a set of underwear and coat. Miss, did you take a bath? Kyoja glanced at Zhang Xiu with a puzzled look. The blush on the young lady's face was too suspicious. The emperor had just left, and the young lady took a bath. When she thought that the bathroom was full of cold water, Kyoja stopped gossiping and ran quickly to the closet. After being expelled from the palace, she returned with her cub and amazed the whole city. Author, Hanggu. Chapter 245. A moment later, Zhang Xiu was fully dressed and ran towards Shumakshan with her hair that she had not had time to wring out. Don't worry, young lady, the emperor said that the young master has fallen asleep. Qiuju has gained experience in raising children for so many years. Since she can sleep peacefully, it must be okay. Zhang Xiu stopped suddenly. The emperor is still in the palace. No, the emperor has returned to the palace. Zhang Xiu secretly breathed a sigh of relief and continued walking forward, pretending to be calm and said, It's okay, he didn't delay me to take a look after he fell asleep. She knew that the child was fine, but she felt sad that the child had suffered an unreasonable disaster, and wanted to go and take a look to feel at ease. Sister, I'm awake now. As soon as he walked to the corridor, he saw Sunan walking towards him. The soft light in the corridor reflected on Sunan's handsome face. The gloom and worries were swept away, and then a sense of guilt appeared. Sister, I will never lose my Sui Sui again. Zhang Xiu walked over and the two of them walked side by side. She raised her hand and patted Sunan on the shoulder. Sister, I said that someone else had planned this night for a long time. It is not your fault. When I arrived at Shumakshan, I saw Sujin coaxing Sushui to drink the soothing soup. Be good, just take a few sips, okay? After that, you can sleep peacefully at night, and you won't see bad people in your dreams. Sujin held the bowl in one hand and hugged Sushui with the other, coaxing him softly. Sushui shook his head. No, uncle, believe me. I'm not afraid of bad people. My itching powder is not vegetarian. I'll ask Aunt Qiuju to make me some more medicine packs tomorrow. Seeing her mother, Sushui looked over and asked for help. Mother, tell my uncle, I'm really not scared. I was only scared when I saw my mother was about to fall into the water. Okay, if you don't want to drink it, don't drink it. We are the bravest every year. Zhang Xiu went up and took the calming soup and put it aside. He lowered his head and kissed his son on the forehead, then told the story of the thrilling scene on the boat. Sunan looked at Sui Sui fondly. We are so resourceful at Sui Sui. We can stay calm and think of countermeasures when we are in danger. It's great. Then he said with admiration, Your Majesty's Qinggong is so good. That's right, Daddy is amazing, and so is Mommy. I knew Mommy and Daddy could find us. Sushui raised his little face, becoming more and more energetic as he spoke. Sujin frowned slightly and remained silent with worry in his eyes. Zhang Xiu saw his worries in her eyes. After a while, Zhang Xiu coaxed her son to sleep. Watching Sushui smacking his lips and falling asleep, several people came to the next room. Ajin, prepare well for the palace examination. Song Yunzi has committed suicide by jumping into the lake out of fear of sin. What you are worried about will not happen again. Why did she just stare at Sushui? She could tell that Sushui was. Sujin didn't say the next words. Zhang Shuyu nodded. She must have noticed that she wanted to threaten the emperor with years. I don't know exactly what her purpose was, but it doesn't matter. It's all over. Zhang Shuyu talked for a while before leaving Shumakshan. As soon as they walked into the garden, Zhang Shuyu and Qiuju stopped in their tracks when a figure flashed in front of them. Who? Zhang Shuyu took a closer look and heard Nangang Ziyu's urgent voice asking, "How is it? Is he okay in Sushui?" "It's okay, I made you worry. It's getting late, so you don't have to go to the restaurant tonight." "Well, I'll go back next door in a while, and then go to the restaurant tomorrow morning." Nangang Ziyu saw the smart boy under his command, and he also intended to cultivate it. In fact, it doesn't matter if he goes later. The two of them stood in the garden and talked for a while before going back to their rooms. Under the moonlight, a tall figure stood opposite Zhang Mansion. It was Zhen Jingxiu, who learned about the thrilling scene on the street, and then learned that Princess Chang'e had been kidnapped by Song Yunzi. Others may not think about it carefully, but he is keen and always feels that there is some connection. "Young master, it's late at night, and the city guard has declared martial law." He has revealed his seriousness and returned to the house to settle down. The personal servant didn't know why the young master left the house. Zhen Jingxiu put away the doubts in his heart and turned back to his house. He made up his mind to boldly raise his head and take a look at Long Yan next time he went to the palace to meet the saint. Xiao Jingzhao ordered all available people to be dispatched. After a night of searching, they captured all the men from the King Ai sect who had escaped and those who were looking for Dr. Zhang. The next day, a notice was posted in front of Jing Ziyin's door. Everyone rushed to tell each other, and the news spread throughout the capital. People gathered in front of the street tea houses were talking a lot. It turns out that the person who kidnapped the princess was the princess of the previous dynasty. The emperor did not deprive her of her livelihood. She was too dissatisfied. That is, the Song family is greedy for pleasure and makes the people miserable. If it were anyone else who ascended the throne, they would have been killed long ago. You don't know, right? Lu Zhiz, who personally led people to recover the body from Lianwu Lake, and the eldest princess committed suicide by throwing herself into the lake, a man in coarse cloth said. The man had been fishing in Lianwu Lake for many years. Today, when he went to the lake, he saw the government officials fishing in the lake. He also lent the fishing boat to the officials. How could Lu Zhiz who use his boat in vain? He gave him 2 taels of silver and let him rest for 2 days. He usually catches fish and sells them in the market. Sometimes he can't sell them for even 1 tael of silver for several days. I was so happy today that I took the money and went to the tea house to have a drink. The storyteller hadn't arrived yet, so everyone was chatting about gossip. A woman twisted a melon seed and threw it into her mouth. It doesn't matter if you die. I used to live a high and noble life. It's so shameless to be reduced to a prisoner. I have no shame to live anymore. I heard that she even hired an accomplice. According to the law, she should be beheaded even if she doesn't jump into the lake. A middle-aged man with a refined temperament said slowly. 3 days later, the case was tried clearly, including the amount of money Song Yunzi had in the bank, and the house she transferred to another place and purchased in the name of someone else, and countless shops, farms, and land under her name. The amount was so large that the court officials were dumbfounded when they learned about it. What shocked the officials was that she actually colluded with the enemy and tried to collude with the third prince of Liang to attack Wanling and then divide the city. No wonder the treasury was empty in the past. It turned out that the silver went to the princess's mansion. Fortunately, the purple star fell from the sky, and with the new emperor, the treasury is getting fuller day by day. If she succeeds, our heads will be moved. The officials were furious and whispered with their colleagues beside them. The people were gone, and the impeachment memorials were changed. Wu Taiwei was the first to stand up and propose, "Your Majesty, I think that Song Yunzi's crimes are extremely serious. All her property should be put into the national treasury, and her body can be thrown into the mass grave." The left prime minister in the front row turned around and said, "Sir Wu may not know that there are no mass graves outside the city now. That's not right." It was Lin Yuanshao who personally proposed to clean up the mass graves. "Rotting corpses can easily cause epidemics," another minister echoed. In the end, Xiao Jingzhao listened to the opinions of the ministers and announced that all the property of the princess's mansion would be filled into the national treasury, and she would be buried next to the Song family's imperial mausoleum immediately. It was rare for Lu Zhihu to take on a major case that shocked the capital. He acted swiftly and decisively. In less than 10 days, all the criminals involved were dragged to Keishikao for execution. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After being expelled from the palace, she returned with her cub and amazed the whole city. Author, Hanggu. Chapter 246. After the kidnapping incident, the capital was like Yan'an, and there was no more beacon-beating incident. Zhang Shuyu was thinking about the greenhouse vegetables on the farm. Just 3 days before the palace examination, Zhang Shuyu took Sui Sui and Qiuju to the farm. As soon as the carriage left the capital, 2 horses were seen galloping from the opposite side. Gao Mu quickly pulled the carriage to the side of the road and took a closer look. There were 2 people dressed as post officials on the horseback. Zhang Shuyu heard the rapid sound of horse hooves and lifted the curtain to look and then let go. Sui Sui recognized the 2 people's clothes at a glance. He looked up and said, "Mother, it's the post official. There must be an urgent report." Yeah, Zhang Shuyu responded absent-mindedly. "Yesterday, a woman gave birth in the clinic. She was busy until late and returned home. If she went into the space to rest, she would be full of energy today." These days, Gao Mu took Sui Sui to practice basic skills. After all, he is a child. When he is tired, he will cling to people. Seeing that his son was practicing hard, he let him rest in Xingye courtyard last night. She used the hot spring water in the space to bathe the child. When she got up this morning, Sui Sui actually said that the soreness in her arm had disappeared. When no one was in the tea room, she poured the spiritual spring water into the teapot. The people around her had been drinking the spiritual spring water for so many years, and everyone was in good health. "Miss, is it Liang State that attacked Yan'an?" Qiuju asked. Zhang Shuyu shook her head, "I don't know." The carriage continued to move forward, and Zhang Shuyu leaned on the small couch and closed her eyes to rest. This is the era of cold weapons. If Xiao Jingzhao has something to deter other countries, neighboring countries will not dare to invade in the future. When the carriage arrived at the manor, Zhang Shuyu's idea had already taken shape. She made up her mind that some things had to be tried before they could work. Before the carriage entered the manor and stopped, the village head Zhang Yuanshan came up happily. "Miss, it's done, it's done. The cabbages have all taken root and sprouted after being planted. Uncle Zhang has worked hard. The cabbages have a short growth cycle and can be picked in 40 days." Zhang Shuyu smiled and walked out of the carriage. Gao Mu got off the saddle safely, and Zhang Shuyu walked down. Just as Qiuju was about to hug Sui Sui, Sui Sui jumped lightly and stood steadily on the ground. Gao Mu brought down a few bags of seeds from the carriage. "Here are all green leafy vegetables, all of which are scarce in the capital in winter. Green leafy vegetables are rare in winter, and I will definitely take good care of them." Zhang Yuanshan hurriedly shouted into the house, "Old third, come out quickly, Miss is here." Footsteps sounded. Zhang Qiu ran out quickly. "Miss is here, go to the house and rest." "Master," Zhang Yazu, who followed out, called Sui Sui shyly. "Hello, young master. Brother Gao, Sister Kyoju, long time no see. Yeazu, take the young master to see the little rabbits. Zhang Qiu greeted them one by one, and Aunt Zhang and Jinhua came out to greet them. Hello, young lady. After greeting each other, the mother-in-law and daughter-in-law hurried to prepare tea. When Sushui heard that there were little rabbits to see, she took Yeazu and ran away. Zhang Yuanshan told his youngest son to collect the seeds in the warehouse, and he led Zhang Shuyu and others to the field in front. As soon as they walked out of the gate of the manor, they saw the neatly arranged greenhouses shining from afar. Kyoja ran a few steps and counted them one by one. Young lady, there are 8 greenhouses in total. Are the vegetables grown in them enough for the restaurant? Zhang Shuyu smiled but said nothing. The restaurant business was booming, and the vegetables in the 8 greenhouses were definitely not enough, but things are rare and expensive, and the production of glass paste is small. It will take time to promote it on a large scale. On the side of the greenhouse, there were craftsmen working. That was a room used for rest and firewood storage. Why can't I see Kang Yun? Where did he go? Gao Mu looked around when he came to the outside of the greenhouse. The craftsmen and villagers in the building looked here, but there was no sign of Kang Yun. Kang Yun was talking with Zhang Cai just now. Maybe he is in the greenhouse now, Zhang Yuanshan said, pointing to the first greenhouse on the right. That greenhouse was the first to plant seeds. Zhang Yuanshan and Kang Yun would go in to check twice a day. Opening the wooden door, a warm breath rushed towards them. Miss is here. In the greenhouse, Kang Yun and Zhang Cai turned their heads together. The two were about to stand up to greet each other, but Zhang Shuyu raised her hand and said, "No need to be polite, what are you two squatting to look at?" "Miss, I pull a vegetable root every day to see if there is anything wrong with it." Zhang Shuyu. Qiuju. Gao Mu glanced at the thumb-long vegetable seedlings, which were green and lush. He raised his thick eyebrows slightly. Kang Yun, the problem is not with the vegetables. Brother Gao, you don't understand. Some villagers said that some vegetables are fine on the surface, but the roots are bad. Looking at Kang Yun explaining the essentials of growing vegetables seriously, Gao Mu was fooled. Zhang Yuanshan also knew that this practice was unreasonable, and explained with a smile, in spring and summer, there is no need to check the roots of green leafy vegetables on the farm. This is the first time to plant them in the greenhouse, so it is safer to check them carefully. As long as there is no excessive water, there will generally be no problem with the roots. Kang Yun stood up and laughed. It is my subordinate who is too nervous about these hard-earned vegetables. Zhang Yuanshan said, I have memorized the precautions written by the young lady. The soil used here has been turned and dried. If caterpillars are bred, I will ask someone to catch them. Pile up more charcoal ash on a daily basis, which can also inhibit insects from growing on vegetable leaves. Zhang Shuyu looked up and saw a layer of water droplets on the glass paste on the top. She could feel the moist air in the greenhouse. Zhang Cai seemed to see through his master's thoughts, pointing to a piece of coarse cloth hanging on the wall of the greenhouse and said, the young lady has told me to control the humidity inside. Every day, I not only observe the water mist on the glass paste, but also judge the humidity inside by the wetness of the cloth. Zhang Shuyu cast an approving look at Zhang Cai, you did a good job. Today I brought some other green leafy vegetable seeds. You can arrange the seeds yourself. The seeds in another greenhouse had just sprouted, and Zhang Shuyu looked around one by one. In another open space in the greenhouse, villagers were turning the soil. Zhang Yuanshan, the head of the village, arranged everything in an orderly manner, and Zhang Shuyu was very satisfied. On the way back, Zhang Yuanshan asked, Miss, are the meat rabbits really recycled? Some villagers want to sell some rabbits before the Chinese New Year to buy New Year's goods. Of course, I'm going to buy them. I'm planning to do it before the Chinese New Year. I'll tell the villagers so that they can keep them safe. Back in the yard, Jinhua had already prepared tea. The house was really clean, even the window frames were spotless. "Miss, try it. This is chrysanthemum tea picked by Yan Huishan. Jinhua is smart. The last time Zhang Shuya came to the village, she mentioned that the chrysanthemums on the mountain can be used to make tea. My husband was busy building a greenhouse with the villagers. While the second and third brothers went up the mountain to collect firewood, Jinhua followed them up the mountain to pick a lot of chrysanthemums and dried them." Zhang Shuya took a sip of the teacup and praised, "It smells good. This is really a treasure land. There is a mint patch by the river. You can pick the tender tips to make tea next summer. It's good for refreshing the mind." Since Jinhua loves to learn, Zhang Shuya is willing to tell her. Jinhua nodded with a smile, "I'll listen to you, young lady. Next year I'll pick more and have someone bring them to you." Zhang Shuya really liked the simple family in the village. She put down her teacup and looked at Jinhua, "I want to discuss something with you. I wonder if you can make the decision." Window. Tabula equals window. Tabula. Tabula.push, mode, thumbs feed -01, container, tabula below article feed, placement, below article feed, target. Type, mix. After being expelled from the palace, she returned with her cub and amazed the whole city. Author, Hanggu. Chapter 248. Xiao Jingzhao read the letter quickly, and the corners of his mouth rose unconsciously. "Your Majesty, does the Emperor of Liang believe that it is true?" Xiang Song had been looking forward to it for a long time, and he couldn't help his curiosity. "He not only believes it, but he also holds hope. I didn't lie to him about this. Isn't it the right way to send someone to look for it?" Xiao Jingzhao said as he folded the letter and put it back. The Emperor of Liang sincerely apologized in the letter, saying that the third prince had caused trouble in the border without authorization in order to compete for the position of the crown prince. He knew that he had already disciplined him strictly. In order to show the sincerity of Liang, Liang would send envoys to Wanling to apologize. He also said that if Wanling could help Liang find the eldest prince, Liang would be willing to offer 3 cities as a token of gratitude. Wanling was a strong country, and Xiao Jingzhao didn't care whether the Emperor of Liang really didn't know what the third prince of Liang did, or was deliberately indulgent. He was willing to help find the lost eldest prince of Liang state, simply because he did not want to fight, because fighting would kill people. He was unwilling to satisfy his competitive spirit with the brothers who had lived and died together in the military camp. He advocated peace and would not go to war unless necessary. It is said that when gods fight, the people suffer. He would preserve his strength while maintaining friendly relations with neighboring countries. He would make Wanling state more and more powerful, just as he named the country Sheng. 3 days later, the emperor held a palace examination in Baohe Hall. After answering questions on policy essays, only a few of the scholars could stand in front of the emperor. Unsurprisingly, Zhen Jingxiu and Sujin were among them. Lin Xiangji had passed this test. Xiao Jingzhao broke the old rules and asked questions and talked with several people in person. After a question and answer session, Zhen Jingxiu, Sujin, and a scholar named Bai Zhou answered fluently, which made Xiao Jingzhao very satisfied. Although Lin Xiangji answered better than the others, there was no harm without comparison. Just as Lin Xiangji was wailing inwardly, Xiao Jingzhao changed the subject and turned the topic to the issue of silver in the national treasury. Lin Xiangji instantly gained confidence. Speaking of silver management, that was his strong point. He was the only one in the hall who spoke eloquently, and Zhen Jingxiu, Sujin, Baizhou, and others were all stunned. The officials on both sides were dumbfounded. This view was experienced and clear. If someone said that the person in front of them was the Minister of Revenue who had been in office for many years, they would not doubt it at all. Good. Xiao Jingzhao praised. And the rest of the people looked at Lin Xiangji with new eyes, who had answered mediocre questions in the first 2 rounds. After the palace examination, Xiao Jingzhao immediately announced the results of the palace examination and named Zhen Jingxiu as the top scholar. Sujin was the second place, and Baizhou was the third place. The top three were all assigned to the Hanlin Academy, and Zhen Jingxiu was awarded the position of editor of the Hanlin Academy, from the sixth rank. Sujin and Baizhou were granted the title of editors of the Hanlin Academy, and the rank of the seventh rank. The rest of the people in the hall were granted the title of Jinshi. Lin Xiangji thought. Wan Kaiu, the task given to him by the emperor cannot be completed. The position of the minister of the Ministry of Revenue will definitely be taken over by others. Just as everyone thanked the emperor and stood up, the left minister Fan's Hiking stood up to advise. Your Majesty, I have something to say, but I don't know if I should say it or not. Xiao Jingzhao nodded slightly. These days, Mr. Fan has worked hard for the government, and I have seen all of this. If you have any ideas, just say it. Xiao Jingzhao never hesitated to praise his ministers. He announced it in the morning court before the palace examination. After selecting the top three, the left minister and the cabinet ministers will discuss and decide how to arrange the vacant positions. He only mentioned one point, that the minister of the Ministry of Revenue needs a talented person to take on the responsibility. With the emperor's permission, Fan's Hiking glanced at Lin Xiangji. In my opinion, Master Lin knows a lot about the management of money and income. The position of the Minister of the Ministry of Revenue is still vacant, and Master Lin is the most suitable candidate. I second the motion. I second the motion. The cabinet ministers on the side all bowed their hands in agreement. Zhen Jingxiu and Sujin both cast a happy look at Lin Xiangji. The three of them were arguing with each other, and the only thing left was to celebrate in the hall. Lin Xiangji began to let go of his worries. After all, he did not let down the emperor's kindness, and the position of the minister was about to be secured. Lin Xiangji looked at Xiao Jingzhao in the hall, and the villain in his heart cheered. Nod quickly. Isn't it just right for someone to send a pillow when you are sleeping? Xiao Jingzhao raised his sword eyebrows slightly, and nodded slightly with a smile. Just when everyone thought that this matter was like picking snails with 3 fingers, a sure thing. Xiao Jingzhao coughed dryly and said, not appropriate. Lin Xiangji's head was buzzing. He cursed in his heart. This idiot doesn't know how to take advantage of the situation. Even if he is given another 3 years, he will not be able to pass the imperial examination. Zhen Jingxiu and Sujin were also confused. What is the emperor trying to do? He said that he would recruit talents regardless of their background. Is his golden words not valid? Your Majesty, please think twice. I believe that I am not wrong. Young Master Lin is a talented person who will definitely be able to manage the purse of Wanling State. Fan's Hiking bowed again and said earnestly. I believe in your judgment. I don't need to elaborate on how important the position of the Minister of Revenue is. Young Master Lin has passed the imperial examination and has not yet been trained. The top scholar is only in the 6th rank. It is definitely inappropriate for a newly promoted Jinshi to be promoted to the 3rd rank. The ministers looked at each other. It is true that a Jinshi can be directly appointed, but from ancient times to the present, there has never been a newly promoted Jinshi who has passed the imperial examination and has been promoted to an important position. Which of the emperor's words counts? Lin Xiangji drooped his eyelids and simply looked at Xiao Jingzhao, who looked down on him. He was afraid that he could not control his scolding eyes. The atmosphere in the hall suddenly became a little dull. Xiao Jingzhao glanced at everyone and said, but there are exceptions to everything. The ministers felt relieved when they heard that there was a play. Lin Xiangji raised his eyelids and looked directly at Xiao Jingzhao. Xiao Jingzhao smiled a playful smile at the corner of his mouth, which disappeared in an instant. At an angle that no one could see, Lin Xiangji rolled his eyes. This guy was as black-bellied as ever, and he never played tricks on him the same way every time. A minister couldn't help but ask, what does the emperor mean? Xiao Jingzhao nodded slightly and nonchalantly, I approve it, but the new Jinchi has not been trained and sent out, so the post of Minister of the Ministry of Revenue will be temporarily handed over to Lin Xiangji. Whether he can do it depends on his ability. What do you think? Lin Xiangji. What the hell, you let the horse run without giving it grass to eat, this nameless and unranked, what's the point? Father, mother, and uncle are still waiting for him to announce the good news. How can he announce the good news? Passed the Jinchi and got a temporary job? After hearing what Xiao Jingzhao said, the ministers agreed. The left prime minister was the most excited. These days, the Ministry of Revenue has come to ask him for instructions on all the big and small matters, and he has been so busy that he has neglected his most beloved concubine. Someone finally took over the pot. He bowed his hands in admiration, Your Majesty is wise, but Mr. Lin's rank. Xiao Jingzhao glanced at Lin Xiangji, who understood immediately. He hurriedly bowed to the left prime minister, Thank you for your appreciation, Lord Zhou. As a minister, I will definitely share the worries of the king. As for the rank, I don't care, it doesn't matter if it's a little lower. The left prime minister nodded slightly, eat the salary and share the worries of the king. Mr. Lin is not only talented, but also has such awareness at a young age. His future is limitless. Lin Xiangji. It is infinite exploitation.